pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Flight downside of speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
All right, y'all. Here we are once again. It is a busy, busy week in space flight. I'm here for another launch. Chris G's down at the Cape. He's actually getting set up right now, but thank y'all for joining us. You know how we always start this off. Give us an audio check. Give us a video check. Let us know if you can hear and see us right now. You should see me. Probably not what you want to see, but I'm John Galloway. I'll be hosting from the studio today. Chris Gebhardt will be down at the Cape. We'll introduce him in just a minute when his camera comes online. That says all good up there, so that's what I like to see. You can see our very generic Starlink launch image here. The Starlink launch, this is the 8th Starlink launch of 60 Starlink broadband internet satellites that SpaceX is going to be doing. And we probably have about 10-15 minutes or so here as Chris G moves into position down to the Cape. Now, Chris Gebhardt is going to be embedded with the 45th Space Wing down there at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, and they are going to be watching from one of the causeways. This launch is going out of SLC-40 today, so we will give Chris just a little bit to get set up and see if we can get a launch going tonight. Now, the launch weather, if I'm not mistaken, the launch weather, Michael, are you here right now? He's probably muted. I'm just going to call on him.
Yes, I am.
Okay, sorry. Was our most recent weather update, was it 40%? Did we get 50%? What's our go for today?
So we're currently at a 60% go probability.
All right.
It was a downgrade from 70% from the day before. And it sounds like from the last report Chris G gave us, it is looking a bit close to some systems moving through the area.
Right.
So we're going to have to see what happens. But when you get a chance, we can take a look at that radar.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got that right here. Let me see if I can bring up the weather radar. And like Michael was saying, you can see out here in the background, the red dot is SLC-40. That's where SpaceX will be launching their Falcon 9 this evening. But you can see there's a big system over here off the coast. Again, I'm not a weather person or anything like that. But there's also quite a bit of rain showing over inland. Just some sort of evening rain, that looks like. So we are clear at the Cape right now. The red dot is clear. It looks like everything's good, but the weather percent at 60%, right, Michael?
Yes, I do believe there is a lot of cloud cover in the area as well.
Right.
So that thick cloud layer could become a factor,
Gotcha.
even if there's not any rain.
Gotcha. And we'll just animate the radar here, and you can see there's some stuff sort of moving up. It's not going inland. It's not going out. It's sort of going up the coast right now is what this system up here seems to be doing. So we'll keep on watching it. Again, I'm not an official weather announcer or anything like that, so we definitely rely on the Cape to give us the actual information, the Air Force Station, 45th Space Wing. See if we get on the launch nets or something like that, an update as to how we're looking today. But again, if you're just joining us, let us know. Let me know that everything's working okay. I'm your host, John Galloway. If you know me from Twitch, you may know me as DOS. Chris Gebhardt is getting set up right now. He is actually going to be out there live from Cape Canaveral. We have the NSF cam that's about to be spooled up so we can see if we get this 8th launch of the Starlink satellites. So in the meantime, we got something over there or something like that. It's okay. Don't worry about it if there's something back there. We won't be using this scene for long. Once we get the remote camera online, we'll go full screen on the remote camera. You won't have to look at me anymore. So in the meantime, if you want to keep up with what's going on, let's go ahead and put this back up, Starlink launch. NASA Spaceflight actually has an article that was written about the launch this evening. And if I pop over this way, let's see. Yeah, here is the article from NASA Spaceflight. I'm going to go ahead and link this into chat really quickly, like that. And over here as well, like that. So that is the official NASA Spaceflight article that two of our writers, Colin Fletcher and Tyler Gray, put together for the Starlink launch here. So as we go through this really quickly, you can see this is actually going to be one of the first drone ship landing on the drone ship that's come over from the West Coast to the East Coast. I'm scrolling rapidly here because I don't want to say it wrong. Which one was it? VT-48. Come on, where's it at? Where's the drone ship information? Of course, I still love you. No. Which one's out there, Michael?
Just read the instructions.
Just read the instructions. There we go. It's all the way down here in the article. So this is a new thing going on right now. Sorry, I didn't want to say the wrong one, and I psyched myself out at the last second. But it's Just Read the Instructions. Just Read the Instructions is one of SpaceX's drone ships, and they brought that over from the West Coast, if I'm not mistaken. It has not yet caught a booster out here on the East Coast because it was undergoing some upgrades. And it has those upgrades now, bigger thrusters amongst other things. And this will be its first East Coast catch since it's got these upgrades going on. So again, like I said, if we're just joining us, if you're just popping in, we are waiting for Chris Gebhardt. He is out there at Cape Canaveral. He's getting that live stream camera set up, and we will do our Q&A commentary like we always do. This is a SpaceX Starlink launch coming on the heels of the previous DM2 SpaceX mission, only by a couple of days. What was that? Saturday they finally got that thing out? So we got Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 days in between the DM2 launch from Pad 39A at Cape Canaveral and this SpaceX launch from SLC 40. So let's pop over back this way like that and see how we are doing. Again, we're tracking the weather. We're watching to see how the weather's going to be out there. Chris G is about to be setting up his remote camera so that he can have things, we can have that NASA spaceflight remote video. The launch this evening is scheduled for 9:30 something. Is that right?
9:25.
9:25. All right, so 9:25 Eastern time, and we will see how the weather holds for the launch. So as usual, when we do these live streams, the reason I'm here running my mouth in the studio right now, is because that way we can go live while Chris is still getting set up. If anything goes wrong, we can swap over to the other feeds. We can bring up the weather radar and stuff like that. But while we're hanging out, a couple brief things. When we get to the Q&A segment, we'll be doing some Q&A about the mission. That's one of the things we do. We don't just restream the regular, here's the launch video, and we'll make some comments about it. We try to make it live interactive, so we do talk a little bit, and we want to answer some of your questions. So whenever we get Chris going, James Jennison yells or screams loudly, "We love you, Chris." Nice, James. Thank you. Once we get Chris's camera going, we get the Q&A going. If you have a question for us, tag us at NASA Spaceflight over on YouTube. And if you put at NASA Spaceflight in there, that'll make it more likely that we'll see your question. Your questions all go into sort of a queue. And then when we get a chance, we'll go through and we'll answer some of those questions with Chris G. Also, be advised, just keep in mind that we can't always answer all the questions that you ask. So we always get so many good questions coming in. It doesn't necessarily mean that we'll be able to answer every single question. And we don't always answer them in real time. Sometimes we get a really great question and it takes a while to answer. We'll go off into the weeds and we'll talk about other things and, and did you know this and this? And so sometimes when we get these really good questions, we may talk about them for a little while, so we don't answer all the questions in real time. So again, be patient. There's no real reason to post your question over and over and over again. Don't spam your questions. That just sort of clogs it up and makes it a little bit harder for us. But we will be getting Chris G's camera online just shortly. No, we won't answer all the questions. It's true. We just can't ever get to all the questions. And so somebody over here, Hydra, is asking, is this Starlink 7 or 8? That is a great question. That's a great question. Michael, this is the 8th launch of Starlink satellites of any flavor. True or false?
False. It's actually the 9th.
This is the 9th launch
because
of Starlink
satellites.
Tintins. So SpaceX did one launch of Starlink satellites. Oh, hi.
I just totally had to jump in there because that's the part that I heard first. But it's the 8th. Wait, no, 9th.
The 8th, 9th? How many? Jeez. Chris Gebhardt, how's it going out there?
It's going good. I'm still maybe 3 minutes away from being ready to activate the camera here.
All right.
I am here. I can see our rocket, and boy, does she look gorgeous.
Good deal.
Just 5 days after her sister booster launched from another pad here. It's been a week.
All right. So like we said, Chris G is getting that camera set up. Chris, whenever you are ready, just let me know and I'll bring up that live feed. I was explaining to people they probably don't want to see me sitting here with a static background before us, but we're just giving Chris G a little bit more time to get that remote camera spilled up down there.
And Doss, if you want to make sure that you're piping in that countdown, that audio, it just went live.
Yes, it did just go live?
Yes.
All right. So let me see if I can bring that up over here and see if we can listen to it. I'm not going to hear anything from it right now, I don't believe, right?
They just said tanks are venting for prop load. So
Okay.
the launch director in that case must have just given a go for propellant load at T minus 38 minutes. That's when they do the pull. So we're looking good.
All
so
right.
far.
Good deal. Let me
All
make
right.
sure we're piping that
All
audio
right.
over correctly.
It's
Yes,
super
I am
qu-
part,
it's-
so give me 3 minutes and I will be back and we'll have a live shot.
All right. Good deal. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, the audio is super quiet, so you're gonna want it on the highest audio setting on YouTube
Okay. Good deal.
when you type it in.
I've got it cranked all the way up, but I'm still not hearing it on this
It's
end.
not. They're not talking right now, and they probably won't talk for another. They don't talk very much at SpaceX, basically.
Gotcha.
So, but I will go back to that question about the naming convention.
Sure.
The reason I answered 9 was because the way DOS phrased it, which was Starlink launches of any kind. But it really depends on how the specific question is asked. If it's a batch of 60 Starlink satellites, which is how they're currently launching them, it is the 8th launch. That includes one launch, the first launch of 60 Starlink satellites, which was a test batch, basically, and those satellites do not have all the systems necessary to be fully operational as part of the constellation. So the version 1 satellites, which include Starlink launch, the second batch of 60 Starlink launches through the one that's launching today, those all have the proper antennas and everything required to be operational Starlink satellites. So today's launch is the 7th launch of operational Starlink satellites,
Okay.
the 8th launch of a batch of 60 Starlink satellites, and the 9th total launch that includes Starlink
The launch auto
satellites. If
sequence
that
has
makes
started.
sense.
All right. And there was the audio about the auto sequence starting. Did
Yes.
you catch that?
Yeah, so fueling is now underway.
All right. Good deal.
Or propellant loading of the first stage, and the first stage liquid oxygen tank and kerosene on both stages should now be underway.
All right, gotcha. So again, like Michael was, let me see if I can repeat what Michael said, because that's the best way for me to make sure that I understand is if I can repeat it correctly, right? They've launched 9 rockets that have had something called a Starlink satellite on top of it. 8 launches of those are operational Starlink satellites. So the first launch was a test launch that had actual satellites on it, but they just said that's a test launch. And then they did 1 launch that were Starlink satellites, but they're not the current version of Starlink satellites. So there are 7 launches of the current design, build, whatever you want to call it, Starlink satellites that are operational. 1 launch of Starlink satellites that are operational, but they were an earlier design or build. And then 1 launch of Starlink satellites that were tests. So 9 total launches, 8 operational launches, 7 launches of the current design. Did I get that correct?
You're close, but you're not exactly correct.
Oh, gosh.
The first launch of 60 Starlink satellites is not really operational because it does not have all the correct antennas.
Okay.
In
Wait.
terms of
The first launch ever of Starlink satellites, or the second launch of operational satellites?
So the first launch ever was 2 Tintin satellites.
Okay.
Those were tests and not operational.
Okay.
Then last May, there was a batch of 60 Starlink satellites,
Right.
which did not have all the antennas necessary for communications. So
Gotcha.
that is technically also a test
Okay.
batch.
All right.
But since
So
then, the 6 remaining launches have all been operational.
okay.
So today is the 9th total launch, the 8th total launch of a batch of 60, and the 7th total operational launch, if that makes sense.
All right.
I know it's hard to follow.
Chad, does that make sense? I mean, this is why you get people, and it's like, well, this live stream says it's the 8th launch, and this live stream says it's the 9th launch, and this live stream says it's the 7th launch, and SpaceX won't even answer the question for us. SpaceX doesn't give us an official title, and then the 45th Space Wing says one thing, and then another press release may say something different, and it's sort of all over. It's as clear as mud. Thank you.
Yeah, so the naming conventions are that SpaceX calls this the 8th batch of 60 Starlink satellites, which
Okay.
is true. But on their YouTube channel, you'll notice all the stream titles are Starlink Mission.
Okay,
They now have a bunch of videos called Starlink Mission.
and
But
I can
the
hear
actual-
Chris setting up over there right
Yeah.
now. That's the sound of
Yeah.
Chris's
The
microphone.
actual internal
Yes,
name,
sorry.
No worries, no worries.
the internal designation for this mission is the 7th launch. So it's Starlink version 1.0 L7, which stands for the 7th
not live.
launch of version 1.0 satellites, which is the 7th launch of operational satellites, because version 1 is the batch that became operational.
Hot mic on countdown 1, Chris. You are live audio-wise, just so you know. Just making sure Chris heard that real quick. It sounds like he muted it, but I heard him say, I'm not live, and he was referring to his camera, but I wanted him to make sure his audio was live. Eastern Bennett, yes, there is a launch tonight. SpaceX is going for their 7th, 8th, 9th Starlink launch, or whatever it is that's going on. Anyways, like we said, Chris G is getting set up. We are live. We're going to be answering some questions shortly. And as soon as he gets set up, we will switch over to his remote feed and bring us a live view. In fact, I can see actually that his Solo, his broadcast encoder, is coming online right now. I see it on the internet. It just doesn't have a video signal yet. But I see that it's starting to check in with me here at the studio. So... at least SpaceX keeps the tradition of confusing names like the Falcon 9 versions and Starship naming. It's the ITS BFR Block SN3 version 6, whatever. Also, it's stainless steel. It's not carbon composite or whatever.
And Austin, you are getting some super chats if you want to run through those.
Yeah, let's get that real quick. So where is I'm trying to learn some things here. I'm trying to learn this new panel thing. Ray Stanfield, thank you very much for supporting the channel so we can keep on bringing you this coverage from all over the place with the spaceflight news, specifically live spaceflight video, right? That's sort of our bag. We want to do live coverage of spaceflight stuff. Appreciate the support. Bill Tetley, all hail Kerbin and Kerbals across the globe. Bill, thank you for the support there. We also have PAL 9000. It's like HAL 9000, but it's a PAL 9000. Go Falcon, go NASA spaceflight. Thank you for that support, PAL. We appreciate you. RB says, good luck, SpaceX. Thank you for that. And then Roy Tyson says, what is the lifespan of each satellite? So an actual question in there. What is the lifespan of each satellite? Michael, do we know, have we seen in an article or anything like that, what the lifespan of each satellite is supposed to be?
It's about 5 years.
About 5 years.
I have a feeling that these current satellites, because they're like the first batch that are being developed, I think these first ones will probably be less, but once they finalize their design more, it'll probably be about 5 years.
Gotcha. All right. And we know that if they completely die, like if one of the Starlink satellites, they lose control of it, they can't command it to deorbit itself, because that's a big concern. There's so many satellites up there, you don't want them to create space junk. Isn't it true that the calculations show that a dead Starlink satellite should naturally deorbit after about 3 to 5 years? That's the number I've seen, I think, right?
That is about correct.
All right. There's Chris G. How's it going, Chris?
It's going good. I am here and I am ready. And I believe there's a camera for you.
All righty. Well, let me. Have you started that video yet?
That would help, wouldn't it?
I'm looking at it and I'm like, I want to believe you, but I don't see the video yet.
Well, look, I got everything done except pushing the button that said show DOS the video.
The funny thing is I could push the button for you here remotely, but I'd rather you push the button.
There we go.
Yes. And then, hey, Future Martian, just real quick. Future Martian says, I'm surprised the Starship launch mounts don't have serial numbers yet. The Starship launch mounts. Nice.
Oh, my goodness.
All right. So, Chris, I am receiving some beautiful video here from you. Let's see if we can bring this up on the screen really quick. Survey says you're on remote 2 right now. That's not, what is that? That's not right. That's right there. So let's go over to Cape Canaveral. This is Chris Gebhardt's live view from Cape Canaveral. And again, y'all, Chris G is out there running the camera. He is the, no, that's not it either. Oh my gosh, I'm clicking on the wrong things. He is the assistant managing editor for NASAspaceflight.com, live stream camera operator extraordinaire, commentator, host, a writer. I don't know, Chris, what else do you want me to say?
Oh, jack of all trades, I guess.
So welcome, Chris. How are things going out there tonight? I'll let you do some talking for a little while.
It is good. You know, this was so cool because I got to call in. So I was listening to you as we were driving in and everything. But yeah, we've already had some good questions. We've already talked about the naming convention of Starlink, which is always fun to do. But yeah, I heard your guys' weather conversation, and yeah, it definitely looks, like, 60% chance of favorable conditions. They're obviously fueling up, which is a good sign. It at least means there's a chance, because they wouldn't do it if there was absolutely no chance of being able to get up and out today.
Right.
So that's definitely good. And, as long as that range just stays, 5-10 kilometers away, and we don't have lightning or triggered lightning rules, which we talked about, I think, ad nauseum at the
DM2
during TM2, which 5 days ago, a week ago for the first attempt. But yeah, so as long as we can keep those fine, we're good actually. So that should be awesome, and we should get a good launch of the latest round of 60 Starlink satellites here today.
All right, you want me to start feeding you some questions for some Q&A?
I think that's absolutely good. Yeah.
Cool. And I think I'm going to make the call on this. We had talked about maybe turning on your face cam, but it looks like it's dark enough out there that we would probably just have like a Chris silhouette or something. So
you would not even be able to see me until the rocket launched. Yeah.
That would actually be kind of cool, though.
It would be, right?
If you just lit up all of a sudden, like we can't see you the entire time, and then all of a sudden there's Chris G lit by the rocket. Let's not worry about face cameras for now. So we'll just go ahead with a nice clean feed of the rocket itself. Sound good?
Ooh, there is lightning off in the Atlantic. Yes, I do copy that, but there was just a major flash of lightning off in the Atlantic.
Oh, wow.
So, but I think I saw in there, right, that, like lightning, what's weird about Florida, right, is it's so flat at the coast that you can see these storms out there that are, dozens of kilometers or even, 100 kilometers or so out at sea and not a problem, but you can see their lightning.
Yeah.
Especially when those clouds go up to, I'm going to totally mix measuring units here and go for, especially when you get those clouds that go up to 30,000 feet, really high up, right, into the atmosphere, and you can really see it. So, yeah.
Chris, I've got this really quickly. With our new bag of weather radar tricks, I can actually see that lightning that is probably behind the pad to you. Was it sort of in the distance, or was it off to your right more?
So the one I saw was off to my right, but there is stuff that I saw driving into the north of the pads as well.
Yeah.
So...
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I see those lightning strikes out there in the Atlantic Ocean. I show some that are somewhere around here, about 51 nautical miles northeast of you. And then out to your east, we've got some lightning. It's about 50 nautical miles to the east. So I'm showing all those lightning strikes on our weather radar here. And if you see more of them, let me know, and I can tell you about how far they are away from you.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome. Thank you,
updated within 4 minutes of the strike. So I get updates on a real-time lightning strikes every 4 minutes in the weather app we're using.
Love it.
I know.
Love it.
All right, so some Q&A sound good?
Q&A sounds great. Let's do it.
All right. Well, I'll kick it off with this one real quick. This isn't even a question. Stephen Phillips, thank you for the support there. It's a super chat saying, appreciate all the live streams these days. Keep up the good work, NSF team, from Florida to Texas to California, wherever. Stephen Phillips, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for the support there. So here is a question, and this is from Raj Shah, and it says, do you think SpaceX can put better cameras and better connections so that we can see the landing live? Because we almost always get a dropout on the drone ship. Why do you think that drops out there, Chris? Every time we get a drone ship landing, it drops.
Yeah. So almost every time. Sometimes we have been lucky and see it. It's usually radio frequency interference with the camera's transmitter as the booster's coming back in that causes that dropout. Not that they're in an area where they can't get reception or anything.
Right.
It's just the interference of the electronics, the booster, the plume. Because remember, that plume is ionized. Right, that's part of what goes into our triggered lightning rules.
Right.
Is as the rocket goes up and reduces the amount of it's a giant conductor, so it reduces the amount of electrical energy needed in the atmosphere to trigger strike, but it's also the ionization of its contrail that contributes to that, and then it's the ionization of the contrail that can mess with the radio frequency transmission of the cameras on the drone ships.
Ah, gotcha. All right. So in terms of doing that, I'm surprised we don't sometimes see another camera nearby live, like off one of a helicopter or a tender ship or something like that. Are there other support ships around the drone ship when it lands? They clear out the drone ship. There's not another ship right next to it, right?
Not right next to it, but there is. But one of the support ships that has all the crew for it does actually stay fairly close. Usually about 3 to 5 kilometers away as the booster is coming in to land.
Gotcha. All right. And then somebody in chat over here is saying that they may be sending us that signal on a tracking mount, and the shaking might also cause it to lose its lock as well. So a really challenging environment to be way out there in the ocean. You have the waves. You have no signal of any sort of cell signal or anything like that. You don't have a landline. You can't just plug into the internet. So it's definitely difficult to get a signal from the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So let's keep on marching forward. This launch is coming up really quick. What are we at? 21 minutes, T-minus 21 minutes right now. So
we are, and I think I've done the manual focus correct on the camera so that it should keep with the rocket and not try to autofocus at night and go all berserk like it tries to do sometimes.
All right, it looks good right now, Chris, so thank you for that.
Perfect, yeah.
All right, so another question here. Oh, well, here you go. Plush Vader does a super chat and asks, is super chat the best way to support the channel, or is there a better way to support you where you get more of the money? Thanks for your coverage. I mean, I think right now super chat is one of the primary ways. It's the best way to support the channel is keep showing up when we go live. So I understand your question, but go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because just like you does, I get that question, and yeah, I would kind of say it comes down to what you feel more comfortable with. If it's super chats on the various like for every stream that we do, but we also have channel memberships, monthly channel memberships. So if you want to make like a recurring, almost like we're public broadcasting, if you would like to support your local NSF chapter, we rely on the generous support of viewers like you. So you can, super chats or our channel memberships, all of those things.
Yeah, and Chris, did you copy that? We just got stage 2 fuel load.
I sure do, and I love this piping the audio through because let's talk about that, right? Because, well, there's our big T-minus 20-minute vent. Look at that.
Well, just right on schedule. What is this?
Right on schedule. So the first stage, right, they load the RP1 kerosene and the densified liquid oxygen into the first stage simultaneously.
Right.
But on the second stage, they actually load the RP1 first, close all of that out, and then load the densified liquid oxygen. It's just a more efficient way of doing it.
Right.
As they've matured and developed the Falcon 9 system and understood how densified liquid oxygen interacts with normal rocket, with normal rocket processes like those pressurization COPVs, the composite overwrap pressure vessels.
Right.
And everything. So that call that we just heard, stage 1 fuel load closed out, was them confirming in the auto sequence as Falcon 9 is controlling all of this right now, that RP1 kerosene load has ended and we're ready to transition into the LOX fill for the second stage.
Gotcha. All right. So that is good. And look at that big vent right there. That's crazy. And Chris, we know we've just seen so many launches that we know that is supposed to happen at T-minus 20 minutes, right?
Exactly. It's one of the reasons I absolutely love our saying, and what I hope people will be really excited about in the coming days, that our slogan in Boca Chica, roadside rocket science,
right,
roadside rocket scientist, like we need one for like Cape Side rocket science,
nice.
Here, because that phrase, and one of the reasons I love, how whoever, and I don't actually know who coined it or who started using it with us first, but whoever it was, I really love that because that's a lot of how we learn about SpaceX.
Yeah.
Honestly, is just by observing the procedures. The previous version iterations of the Falcon 9, like the Block 3s and the Block 4s, fuel differently, right? So this vent happened at different times, and it was just literally watching them go through the Block 5 version of Falcon 9 and realizing, oh my God, every time at T-minus 20 minutes, this big vent occurs.
Yeah.
And now we know what a happy venting Falcon 9 means at T-minus 20 minutes, In
fact, I think on the DM2 broadcast, we said we would be worried if it was T-minus 20 minutes, and we didn't see that, right?
100%, because that means something's not right.
Yeah, it's supposed to be there. It's supposed to happen.
Exactly.
Right. Whoa. Hang on a second, Chris. Look at this. Thomas Bolden. I don't know what's going on, but we appreciate the $100 there.
Oh my gosh! Thank you so much
for that.
Yes,
just out of the blue, not even a message attached to it, just $99.99. We appreciate you there, Thomas. Thank you so much. Jeez,
we really do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then
Thank you so much.
We got SNM Science, Nature, Math, a new membership, and then we got Lagrange Point with a question here. It says, any evidence SpaceX has become less risk-averse to launch constraints when launching their own payload. So have you gotten any sense of that, Chris, where SpaceX is potentially launching in more... What's the word? They're being more careful with the launches because they have to conserve these boosters, or what do you feel about that?
Can you read me the question again? I actually interpreted it a totally different way.
Oh, sure.
I want to make sure I heard it correctly. Yeah.
Okay. It says, any evidence SpaceX has become less risk-averse to launch constraints when launching their own payload. So maybe you're right. Maybe I read that wrong. Less risk-averse would mean they take more risks.
More risks. Yeah, that's what I was reading it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's a great question because you might think, oh, well, it's their payload. So, like, they're not protecting a multi-million-dollar payload from somebody else. So who cares if it's raining? Maybe they just launch.
Stage 2 LOX load has started.
Stage 2 LOX load started.
So that's T-minus 16 minutes and counting because that begins at the 16-minute on the dot mark in the auto sequence. So that's where we are right now. The answer to the question, it's a good question. The answer is no. The Air Force or Space Force here at the 45th Space Wing has a set of weather criteria that every provider off the Eastern Range here in Florida has to abide by. Doesn't matter what the payload is on board. And SpaceX also has their own vehicle-specific launch commit criteria that the range will not let them violate either. So the answer is no. It might be their payload. And maybe they can take a little more risk on, is the recovery weather marginal? Maybe we should just go for it and see if we can land it. They do have some wiggle room there, but they do not in terms of like rain showers, lightning, triggered lightning, or any of the weather commit criteria that we deal with on a daily basis.
Wow. Yeah. All right. There's just so many questions coming through, Chris.
I love it. Let's do rapid fire.
I'm going to speed run a couple things really quick. Yeah. Storms and Sog, thanks for the 25. Adam Nolan Charles, thanks for the $10 super chat. Daniel Stein talking about will we catch 2 nose cones tonight? Chris, are we going for nose cone catches tonight?
Oh my gosh. I have to admit I totally forgot to look. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't. The answer is yes, they are.
Okay, there we go.
Yes, they are. There we go. Yeah, I mean, it occurred to me that I didn't see Go Mystery and Go Mischief in port yesterday, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're out doing this. But so there we go. But yes, we're going to try to catch both of them, both of the fairings as well as the boosters. So that means that per normal Starlink operations, the booster will head for just to read the instructions. The West Coast drone ship that's now here, making its debut for an East Coast mission. It was about 630 kilometers northeast of the Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral Air Force Station off the coast of South Carolina.
Right.
Waiting to catch the booster, and the two fairing catcher ships, Go Mystery and Go Mischief, would be about 730 kilometers away northeast from the Cape, waiting to catch the payload fairings. If the payload fairings do miss the nets in the catcher ships, they can simply fish them out of the water, and they're still good to be refurbed and reused.
Gotcha. All right, I'm going to keep Chris. We have what, like 13
Let's just go.
minutes
We've got
yet.
like 13 minutes
Adam
left.
Watson, we appreciate you. Fat Donkey. Fat Donkey says, one day soon, the drone ships can use Starlink. Nice. The drone ships can use Starlink to try and get us a better video signal. I'm down. I would be down for that.
You're not wrong.
So we appreciate there. Chris, is this a new booster, or is this Orlowski called it a retread? A retread booster. Is this a new booster or a reflight?
It is a reflight. All Starlink missions are going to be reflights because they're pulling the boosters that they have in inventory.
Gotcha.
They're not building new boosters for Starlink, and they're actually not just they're not just building new boosters for just to build them. From what we understand, they are building them when customers are asking for them.
Right.
And then they rotate into the fleet. But of course, Gwen Shotwell has said that, if they need to build a couple new ones a year just to, maintain the fleet and maintain the manifest, she's happy to do that.
Right. And so really quickly,
in general,
this, if this lands tonight, this is a first for SpaceX, ? This is the first time that they've landed a booster for the 5th time. Did I get that correct?
Yes,
I believe so.
Because the first time we reused a booster for the 5th time, we had the engine out just before booster engine cutoff, and then we had a second engine that failed during the entry burn of that. According to what Elon has said publicly, But Elon also said publicly that failure appeared to be a a cleaning issue of an engine on the ground, not a fifth flight performance issue of the booster or the hardware itself. So tonight, what we hope to see is the validation that just like when you reuse it a second time, a third time, and a fourth time, the fifth time we can launch this particular booster and get it back on the drone ship. And then, oh my gosh, Doss, I guess we'll be doing a booster return video on Saturday or live stream on Saturday or Sunday if they catch this thing.
I mean, I'd love to see it.
Land it.
What a problem to have, right? If y'all missed it, what was that, yesterday, right, Chris? Chris.
It was only yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chris actually took the live stream rig out to Port Canaveral at Jetty Park and brought us some live views of the booster used to take DM2, the astronauts Doug and Bob, up to the space station.
Mm-hmm.
That booster came into port just yesterday, and we had a live feed from there, the live commentary talking about the booster coming in. So that's SpaceX isn't even slowing down here, I tell you what.
They are not. Doss, I do have a programming thing for you, though.
Sure.
It is 100% cloud cover here. So 30 to 45 seconds into flight, I will lose it with my camera. So just FYI, not a question tonight. I will lose it in the clouds.
Check this out. Whoosh. Aha. The cover
there
camera,
we go.
the official feed. Back to our feed.
Cover camera, I love it.
So wait, that's actually an official term. Really quickly, from one of my broadcast buddies who does this professionally, you will have a camera like that that's just a shot that you can trust, so that if your close-up camera, your special camera, doesn't have a good shot or fails or something like that, you fall back to the cover camera, which is the camera you can trust to have a shot. So we use the official feed as a cover camera. That's an actual thing. Yes.
I like it.
We have coverage so that if your camera loses the signal or we have a problem with it, the show keeps on going and we still have awesome views of what's going on down there. So
there we go.
What are we at? Oh my gosh, there's almost no time. We're just crossing T-minus 10 minutes right now, Chris. So let me see if I can slam a couple more questions through here. Let's see. Let's see if we can grab a couple that are really timely to what's going on. Here's one. So this is video games, and they ask 42,000 Starlinks. That's an awful lot of Starlinks. That's a lot of launches if you're using a Falcon 9. Will future launches be able to launch more than 60 Starlinks? So Falcon Heavy Starlinks, Starship Starlinks. Have we heard anything about that?
So here's what we've heard. They can fit more than 60 inside the payload fairing. Now, the payload fairing for the Falcon 9 and the Falcon Heavy are identical.
Right.
So it's not like you can just cram as many more as you want in there by using a Falcon Heavy.
Right.
Or something like that. What they've actually said, there is no plan to launch them on heavies right now.
Gotcha.
But what they want to do is start launching them on Starship as soon as possible as
Right.
well, because they can fling a whole bunch of those things up there in a single go.
Oh, yeah.
On a Starship.
And those would be some great test launches for Starship as it's sort of getting checked out. It's sort of space trials, if you will. Launching SpaceX missions would be fantastic.
You know, it could, because it could provide providers like NASA who are interested in Starship for lunar exploration or other initiatives, and other companies. You know, it could help to prove the overall Starship system by launching in-house missions. Exactly.
Yep. Gotcha. So I'm going to cram a couple more questions in here really quickly. What booster serial number is this? Do we know the booster serial number of this launch? I don't off the top of my head. I'm going
to kick this over to Michael because of his wonderful app that he uses to track these things. Yes.
So we'll toss that one up to the studio. Let me see if
What's the question? Sorry, I was listening to something else to see if there's any
what
updates.
booster serial number is this launching today?
Oh, this is booster 1049. So it previously flew Telstar Vantage, Iridium 8, if I have that right. I'm checking quickly.
Right.
And then the first Starlink, yes. So Telstar Vantage 18, Iridium 8, the first Starlink, batch of 60, and the third Starlink, batch of 60 satellites.
Gotcha.
So this is a Starlink veteran booster we have here today. Of course, we're gonna be able to say that about all the boosters shortly. You know.
Yeah. Jeez, because I mean, reusing these boosters for the Starlink missions is definitely part of the. Can I say part of the business model? Like if they want to.
100%.
Yeah, if they want to launch that many satellites, they're going to need to reuse these boosters. Clarent, Thank you for the $42 for the great coverage, the Secret to the Life universe, and everything there. We appreciate you, Clarence. Thank you so much.
I love
for
that amount. Thank you so much.
And then William Gring, thank you as well for the support there. What are we at in terms of time? 7 minutes right now, Chris. I'm going to try to.
We should be 7 minutes
Yeah.
now. For those of you watching, because we are aiming for the center of the window, launch is 21, 25, and 30 seconds. So not at the top of the hour.
Right.
We have just heard. So if you're following along,
Engines are chilling in.
there we go. So engines are chilling down. So we'll get to that in a second. But yes, I totally lost my train of thought wherever I was there. So let's just move on. So the engine chill down that we just heard is they have to drain some of that densified liquid oxygen down into the engines to thermally condition them down to the right temperature so they are not shocked by a sudden, many hundreds of degrees below Fahrenheit temperatures of densified liquid oxygen as they flood into those engines at ignition. So that's what we're hearing now. Standard part of the countdown. The next thing we should hear
complete.
Stage 1 fuel load
is
complete.
that.
Nice. Is that.
Is that. So what that means is that the RP1 kerosene load into the first stage has been completed. They are still loading the densified liquid oxygen into the first stage and into the second stage. We should hear stage 2. We should hear stage 2 fueling and stage 1 oxidizer load closeouts coming up very shortly. Followed by the Falcon 9 pressing for strong back retract, which is that transporter erector, which is actually what we're looking at here. The rocket is actually completely behind the transporter erector, but will rise up above it very quickly at liftoff.
Gotcha.
That's what we can expect in the next few minutes. Give me another question while we wait, though, Das.
Sure, absolutely. Here is one. How about this? We've got 2 barges. We've got 2 drone ships that are over the Atlantic Ocean. We've heard tell about a 3rd barge that may be happening. The question is actually
of gravitas.
Yeah.
Yes.
The question is actually this: will there be another barge taking just read the instructions place out on the West Coast, or what's going on with the barges?
Yeah.
The drone ships.
What? Yeah.
Tanks pressing for strong back retract.
There you go. Tanks are pressing for strong back retract. That's what we want to hear. Right at this point in time. Basically, what we believe is that the West Coast Manifest is capable of performing return to launch site landings at Vandenberg, so there was no more need for a drone ship on the West Coast.
Gotcha.
That's what we believe. Of course, who knows what could happen? For all we know, a shortfall of gravitas could show up on the West Coast at some point, because we do know that a shortfall of gravitas looks different.
Right.
So you can't go scour satellite images looking for something that looks like just read the instructions. And of course, I still love you. Elon has said a shortfall of gravitas looks very different. Strong back retract, so that is pulling back the strong back to 88.5 degrees from 90. This is its pre-launch pullback position. It will perform a throwback maneuver right at the moment of liftoff, where it will throw back to 45 degrees to protect all of its equipment and plumbing and electrical lines inside of it, to allow them to turn the pad around quicker, because believe it or not, if you think they were stopping, there's another Starlink mission coming up very shortly.
Yeah, gotcha. And really quickly here, y'all, I'm going to put a link to a tweet from Chris G. The voice you hear is Chris Gebhardt. I'm putting a link to a tweet. We are just over 3 minutes away from launch. And if you want to help get the word out, have other people know what's happening down here at Cape Canaveral today, watch the live video, tweet out that link, click on the like button or retweet it or whatever, and help us get the word out that we're watching. We're standing by for a launch in just about 3 minutes here. Chris.
100%, yeah.
I'll handle this one really quickly. It's a super chat. It says, are you an official NASA YouTube channel? A friend says that you're a Space Force channel. So NASA Spaceflight is an independent news organization that has NASA in the name, but we are not an official NASA channel. We are officially accredited press with NASA, right, Chris? But we are not
yes, indeed.
part of
Stage 1
NASA.
LOX load is complete.
100%. Well, 100%.
Nice. And
of course, you just heard LOX load complete. So for those of you who aren't familiar with acronyms, that is the liquid oxygen loading. So the densified liquid oxygen loading on stage 1 is closing out for flight.
Gotcha. And really quickly, enables here, 3501, 35 for ASOG hype. The 1 is Starlink version 1, 7 is for the 7th operational launch. Thank you so much there, enables.
Always fun and always good.
Yeah.
So we should be about 2 minutes away, or just under 2 minutes away right now from liftoff.
Jeez.
So very quickly, because we try to be as quiet as we can in the last minute of the flight, Falcon 9 will enter startup mode 1 minute before launch. Final tank pressurizations for flight will occur at that time, and we will get a final go for launch at the T-minus 45-second mark from the launch director. And that will be the final nominal call made out over the net prior to liftoff of the Falcon 9.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
Stage 2 LOX load.
So with that, fueling of the Falcon 9 is complete 1 minute, 30 seconds before liftoff.
All right, Chris, so we're going to switch to your camera microphone. Your camera microphone is online, right?
Camera microphone is online and ready, yes.
All right, so 3, 2, 1, I'll confirm when we're on the switch. All right, and now we should be getting Chris's audio from the camera microphone, and we will bring down our own commentary.
And yes, indeed, and I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear you. All right, perfect. So here we are, just about a minute away now from the launch of Starlink's, of the 8th Starlink launch, 60 new satellites up into orbit. This will bring the total number of Starlinks launched to 482. 8 flights of 60 and 1 flight of 2. We are in the final minute of the countdown. Falcon 9 is in startup, and we are go for launch. T-minus 44 seconds and counting. "30 seconds and counting," you heard? All right, here we go, guys. Water's on, ignition of the Merlin engines, and liftoff of the 8th flight of Starlink. There we go, look at that. The second mission in 5 days for SpaceX as the next Starlink mission lifts off from Cape Canaveral. Wow. Falcon 9 flying straight and true, pitching downrange, heading out northeast from the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station.
That audio, though. So good. Y'all, it just looks like daytime. I mean, the rocket lighting up the side of the clouds. It's heavy cloud cover down there at the Cape, so we're showing both. We've got the official feed here, and we also have Chris G's audio. And I always say you can hear the rocket almost ripping the atmosphere. That rumble that you get sounds like the atmosphere is tearing, but it looks like Chris G is switching over to a clean launch pad there. So let's go up to the full-on feed, and we can watch the rest of this via SpaceX. We'll bring Chris back in for some commentary here as well. Let's see. Chris, you are online as the mission continues to proceed nominally. Remember, you have to unmute your mic there. All right, so we'll get Chris on here.
Indeed, and we saw, and we are continuing to watch from the onboard cameras there, DOS, a successful liftoff of the 8th Starlink mission here from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, coming just 5 days after the historic crew launch of SpaceX from a neighboring pad. You are looking at an onboard camera on the first stage of the rocket, looking down at the 9 Merlin engines at the base of the Falcon 9. To the left-hand side of that screen, you can see a little bump.
Yep.
On Falcon 9, that is one of the 4 landing legs that will be used to safely touch down on Just Read the Instructions. Very proud of myself for getting the correct drone ship, since we have to do that now. Here, what you are seeing there, that plume. Okay, so now you see the first stage on the left, and you see the second stage on the right inside the interstage region. So standing by for stage cutoff and separation, you will see the first stage fall away, exposing that second stage engine to the vacuum of space, where it will ignite a few seconds after stage separation. There we go, stage separation occurring as planned. So standing by for Merlin engine ignition. We have that ignition on the second stage, and it looks like a very good ignition. You can actually see it. The bright dot of light in the left-hand side there was the second stage as seen from an onboard camera on inside of the first stage. So the first stage is on your left. The grid fins are deploying. It is headed down for the drone ship. Just read the instructions. Second stage firing, taking those 60 start. Here comes payload fairing separation. You can see the Starlinks. There go the payload fairings. So perfect. Exactly what we want to see. So those payload fairings are now also on their way down to the Atlantic for recovery. Hoping that the fairing catcher ships Go Mystery and Go Mischief will have a double success and a double catch tonight. But if those payload fairings do parachute down into the water, they can easily be fished out for recovery and reuse. The first stage booster is heading down for the drone ship. There you see the trajectory that it is on. And you see the trajectory the payload fairings are on. Look, the little other blue line, they actually have the payload fairing trajectory on there, which is absolutely amazing. So you can see how far away, right? They separated so close together, but that little difference in that massive increase in velocity, and look how much farther downrange those payload fairings land as opposed to the booster. So there we have it. And Das, we always say this, right? Because, it's so cool to watch the boosters land, but, as we're watching that booster land, pay attention to that second stage. The landing should be happening at right about the time the second stage cuts off at orbit insertion for the Starlinks. And that second stage has the whole reason that we're launching this mission on top of it. So it is a very important stage. And unlike the first stage, if it loses its engine, there's no backup engine to take over.
Right.
So, but man, what a launch, Das. The clouds were so cool. They provided some awesome atmosphere and lighting changes as it went up today.
Yeah. God, Chris, look at this. I'm going to point this out on the map real quick. Just off the side of where the booster is going to land, that's the coast of North Carolina. One of these days, I'm going to go out there and see if I can catch a booster landing, maybe an entry burn or something like that, and see if we could take a remote camera to see it. The drone ship would be over the horizon, but I'd love to see just the entry burn, just to say we did.
But, I 100% agree, Das, because you know what is absolutely insane?
What?
You would be you off the coast of North Carolina, you'd be about like 250, 270 kilometers away from the drone ship.
Yep.
I'm here 600 kilometers away from it, and on a clear night, we can see the entry burn absolutely clearly from that far away from here.
One of these days, for one of these Starlink launches, I'm going to need to go out there to the coast of North Carolina, because I'm in Charlotte, which is inland, a couple hours, but I want to see if we can catch that one day. Yeah. So continuing on, we see the second stage still burning nominally, almost 6 minutes into flight, and we're coming up on the entry burn, so we should see the left-hand side of the screen light up.
And you can see right now, every once in a while, you see little puffs of light on the otherwise black screen.
Yep.
And those are thruster firings, as the booster is firing its thrusters to keep its orientation just right for the upcoming entry burn. Now, this entry burn both slows the first stage down as it approaches the dense lower atmosphere, but it also thermally protects it because it has no heat shield like we're used to, right? It has a heat shield, but not the ones that we're used to that can survive atmospheric reentry.
Right.
So it actually throws a wall of fire out in front of it.
And that
wall of fire acts as the thermal protection. So here we go. We should be coming up on that ignition. There we go.
Wow.
There is the ignition for the entry burn. You can see the grid fins backlit there by the fire from the Merlin engine, from some of the Merlin engines that are firing now. They don't relight all 9 of them. It's usually 3 that they relight for the entry burn, and then 1 for the landing burn. So there we have it. The entry burn is complete. So it is heading toward the drone ship, but it's not actually aimed perfectly at the drone ship yet. It's
Wow.
aimed just off the side of it, so that if the landing burn, if they can't reignite the engine, the center engine for the landing burn,
Yep.
the booster harmlessly falls into the water and doesn't impale and sink the drone ship.
Yeah. Chris, we were getting some sparks off the booster there. Some weird things I hadn't seen before. A bunch of sparks coming up, and then they lost the feed. So they've switched over to the drone ship. They've got some lights out there. The landing bird's coming up in just a few seconds, but those sparks definitely looked interesting. Let's see what happens out on the drone ship. Stage 2.
So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Still going.
Stage 2 still going. Yeah. Stage 2 still going good.
Yeah.
So yeah, we will see what happens here. I did see what you saw too, but compressed onto the phone and through Zoom, I couldn't tell. I didn't have a clear view of it, is what I'm trying to say.
Our downlink was pretty pixelated as well. It looked like there were sparks or something coming up, but it wasn't exactly clear for us, and then the link dropped. So we'll see. Either there's going to be a rocket appearing on this drone ship or not.
Yeah. Now remember this. Oh well, there's the
lights.
landing burn starting. So remember too, when it's coming in, there could be some plasma forming because it's so hot during re-entry. So, but here it comes landing. You can see the flickering of the light.
Come on, signal.
We sometimes lose the signal, but it comes back and there's a booster standing there. But sometimes we get to see it land. Let's see what we get.
Let's see what we got. I see
there
it.
There goes.
Is it going to stick?
Landed.
It's.
There it is.
There you go.
First time they recovered a booster 5 times. Awesome.
And the feed didn't die. We actually kept live video.
I know
from
the feed didn't die. We actually
time.
saw it land. That is so cool. Sometimes we get it. Sometimes we don't. Okay, so pay attention to that second stage now. Here comes engine shutdown.
Yep.
And that should have been engine shutdown.
That looked like Seco,
on the second stage. So that was stage engine cutoff, Seco, as Dosh just said. So that completes the roughly 8-minute, 45-second ascent to its initial orbit. We will now have a roughly 5-minute coast before the 60 Starlinks deploy about 14 minutes after launch. Now they are going to deploy in nighttime today. So there are lights on the forward end of the Falcon 9 second stage, so we should see something.
Yep.
But don't expect to be able to see them all that long as they drift out of the range of the light on the top of the Falcon 9.
Gotcha.
Today.
Just really quickly, this is a big deal because this is the first time that they've landed for the 5th time.
Yes.
So this booster has landed 5 times.
Which means you are looking most likely at the booster that will fly for the 6th time for the first time.
Right.
6th time for the first time. You gotta love this new era that we're in
fly the 6th time. Yeah. Oh, nice.
And guys, the reason we get so excited about this because reusability. Yes, SpaceX has popularized it. Yes, they have made it mainstream. But they're not the first to do this, right? But they are the first to do it with orbital rocket stages, and that's what's so exciting about this. And of course, Michael Baylor, if you want to talk a little bit about this too, we got incredible information just before we came online that SpaceX has actually, per permits filed with the federal government, gotten permission to reuse boosters and capsules on crew launches, which originally was a no-no from NASA. So that's absolutely incredible, right, Michael?
Yeah, so the commercial crew contract that SpaceX has with NASA was amended as part of an agreement where SpaceX will fly an extended Demo 2 mission. Demo 2 was originally scheduled to be up to 2 weeks, but now it's going to be a couple of months because NASA needs to have additional crew members on the space station. And also additional recovery training with the 45th Space Wing is part of that agreement. So SpaceX is agreeing to do an extended Demo 2 mission and some additional recovery training for upcoming launches with the crew. And in exchange for that, NASA has agreed to allow SpaceX to use flight-proven Crew Dragon and Falcon 9 vehicles on operational commercial crew launches. So that will be huge for SpaceX because that means that you don't have to build new vehicles for every launch.
So that's a new thing, right, y'all? Previously, NASA had said, no, we only want the freshest of new boosters for crew launches. But the documents that we were talking about there are saying that they can reuse boosters for crew launches. Did I get that right?
And the capsules. So like Endeavour, the capsule Endeavour up there, they could reuse that if they want to per the new agreement.
Oh, wow.
And that was the biggest of the no-nos that NASA didn't want them to reuse for some reason. The capsule so that the capsules would launch crew first, and then they would be taken and used for cargo-only missions. But NASA has apparently changed their mind on that, and are saying, yeah, you can totally use it. And Michael, I believe I read your tweet correctly that it would be SpaceX's second operational rotation flight. So not Demo 2, not Crew 1 coming up at the end of toward the end of the year, but whatever their next crew mission for NASA is the first one they can start doing the reuse flights on.
Yeah, and that's correct. It's also important to note that the Crew Dragon is by far the most expensive part of the entire launch vehicle, not the Falcon 9 first stage. So reusing that Crew Dragon is huge.
So let me ask you this, because earlier this year, we got the government accountability or the Inspector General report from NASA that said that the price of a seat, of one of the 4 seats on a Crew Dragon for NASA is $55 million. But that was predicated on new capsules, new boosters every single time. Do you think we're going to see that price per seat drop because of this?
Yes, probably, because, well, actually, okay, I would say for the current contract, no, but for future contracts, maybe. And the reason is that SpaceX has already said they've invested hundreds of millions more than they expected with the first round of commercial crew development. Yeah. So I think SpaceX will hope to get some of that extra investment back, because remember they had that anomaly last year, which cost them a capsule, and these Crew Dragon spacecraft are probably like $100 million each.
Yeah,
not
but it's got to
show.
But it's got to show. Oh, here go the Starlings. Oh, you can see the limb of the Earth. Look, you can see daylight on the horizon as it heads toward Europe. Look at that.
So we're coming up on just a minute away from the Starlink deploy here. So they're showing us a couple feeds on the SpaceX stream there.
Yeah, but so long story short, I think they will hope to get some investment back.
Wait, look at that.
Costs.
Michael, look at the sun setting.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at that. Oh my gosh, look at that.
Sorry, Michael. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I thought that was
good.
Awesome.
That's super cool.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Get their investment back as the sun sets on the upper stage.
And then with upcoming the second contract, if there is one, we'll probably see that cost per seat drop substantially, if I had to guess.
Right.
Gotcha. But it probably gives companies who have paid or are going to pay SpaceX for independent missions on Crew Dragon, it probably means that, that gives extra confidence that if they can reuse a capsule and NASA saying those capsules are safe to reuse, that's got to give a lot of confidence to other customers of SpaceX who aren't NASA about the entire system, that NASA's now saying,
wow.
Rods. Oh my God, we've never seen
the
that
tension
before,
rod.
have we?
The rod came off.
Payload deploy confirmed.
All right. Well, there you go. So those rods, we've never seen that before.
Never
they
seen that
don't
before.
show that. But there you go, 60 Starlink satellites flying free in orbit, bringing the total number launched to 400. Okay, hang on. Someone's decided to rev their engine. Bringing the total number launched to 482. And I love all of you guys, but I don't get a say here. I've got to get in my car because the Caravan is pulling out and security won't like me staying. So
geez.
I'm going to throw it back to you.
All right, we got
so
you, Chris.
I can get in the car and not anger the 45th because apparently
anger the So just really quickly there, Chris, you pack it up. I'm showing Chris's last scenes from his camera here. That is what you want to see on launch day. That is a launch pad that does not have a rocket on it anymore. So, Chris, you're clear to go ahead and shut that down and get in the car and get on out of Dodge.
Thank you so much, Das. Awesome live stream, and we'll see you in a few days for this booster's return to port, since we know it's coming back now.
All right. So, y'all, I'm going to switch it over this way right quick, and this needs to be on force. So let me do that really quickly. That's going to mess up everything, but that's okay. That's okay. So, there we go. So what we just saw there, make sure his camera is going to go away, so let's bring this up really quickly. We would like to have this online. That was a successful launch so far, actually all the way down of the Starlink booster. This video is going to die, so let me put something over the top of it. There we go. That's what we're going to have. That is a successful launch for SpaceX's 7th, 8th, 9th, however many Starlinks they've launched.
Expected loss of signal, Newfoundland.
Okay, they're just, the mission control is still talking about signal. I don't think I need to pipe that through anymore. They launched another 60 Starlink satellites, like Chris said. I think that brought it up to, what was it? Did you say 482? I believe it was. Michael, did I catch that correctly? 482?
Total satellites?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That includes the 2 tension satellites.
Yeah, right. And then for the first time, we actually saw the tension rods. We've seen the satellites float away before, but we've never seen the tension rods come off like that. That's actually how they stack those rods together, stack the satellites together, so they can release them without creating a bunch of junk up there, basically.
Yeah,
so,
can we possibly get a replay of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see if I can pop back over and grab that just really quickly.
If anybody's wondering why we freaked out, on all prior Starlink launches, they have we think at least, intentionally cut the feed when the rod's deployed. There's 2 theories why. It could either be that they did not want to reveal how their deployment mechanism works, or they didn't want to make it seem like they were creating extra space debris. But to be clear, with the current orbital insertion, which has a very low perigee, those rods will naturally orbitally decay and burn up into entry within a few weeks. So it's not a big debris problem at all.
Right. So I've got the replay here if we want to watch the replay of that really quickly. This is something we hadn't ever seen before.
What's going on with the ticker? Sorry about that. I will fix that.
Yeah, it's okay. It's probably my fault. Nice. Did you put a blink tag on the ticker, Michael?
I'm trying to fix it.
It may be something that I did. I'm going to close down the interface over here. But here's the tension rods, y'all. While we go disco mode on the ticker, this is the first time we've seen this. So you see, this is looking up the stack of satellites here. And right there, you can actually see the rods start to release. It moves some. And it just looks like springs that push it away or something like that, releasing the satellites and letting them start to sort of fan out like a deck of cards and float free. So that is not something we've seen before. Let's watch it one more time. You can see right here, you start to get a little bit of motion on the tension rod. This is what I'm looking at. You see it moving? And then all of a sudden it sort of springs off the top and 60 Starlink satellites are floating free. And you may look at that and you may say, well, Das, wait a second. Look at this. That doesn't look like it's connected to the upper stage anymore. That looks like space junk. Why is SpaceX leaving that space junk up there? The Starlink satellites are a big enough deal as it is. That tension rod is going to be pretty light. It is going to be it has a lot of surface area because it's this long rod. And like Michael was saying, they start off with a low perigee. So that tension rod will re-enter itself. It'll take it a few orbits. I don't know how many orbits it'll take or how long it'll take, but that tension rod is in a location where it will naturally decay and sort of clean itself up. If you've ever done it in Kerbal, this tension rod has like a periapsis that's like at 68 or something like that right now. So it's going to go through the atmosphere, and slowly but surely the atmosphere will clean up the tension rods. So I'm going to go back and let's see if we can do a replay of the whole thing. Again, recap, that was a successful launch and deployment of 60 Starlink satellites and almost more importantly, a successful landing of the booster on the drone ship. I know that not everybody would agree with me on that one, but I wonder, is the booster more expensive than the Starlink satellites? Like, is it more important for them to get that booster back so that they can fly it again, or is it more important to get the Starlink satellites back? Michael, do we have numbers on that? Do you know? I know I'm putting you on the spot. Off the top of your head, what is more expensive? 60 Starlink satellites or a booster?
I know they've given an approximate, I think, on Starlink, but I would guess that it is similar or slightly cheaper possibly in the first stage.
Right.
But they also are investing a lot of money in Starlink, and they do need it to start generating revenue as soon as possible. So if they do need to keep getting that constellation deployed quickly. But I think the booster getting that recovered on a Starlink mission is quite important, because it's not only the money, it's that if they lose the booster, they eventually do not have enough boosters to launch every 2 weeks, which is what they want to do with Starlink. So they really need those boosters back on these missions.
So from my perspective, it was sort of a trick question. The booster was free at this point. They already flew the booster 4 times. It did, 4 other missions. This isn't a brand new booster. I think the more you use the booster, the less of a loss it is if you lose the booster, because you've already gotten 4 launches out of it. Here you got 5 launches out of it. So even if they lost it after 5, that's not the same as losing it the first time. So they've already got a lot of mileage out of this booster. Either way, today they actually successfully recovered, or they successfully did both parts of the mission. They landed the booster back. They still have to get it back to port safely, get it unloaded and stuff, so weather and all sorts of stuff can happen. But they also got the Starlink satellites. Let's pop over to the replay really quickly and see that replay. This is the replay of the launch. I have some commentary from SpaceX on it. That's fine.
T-minus 15 seconds.
All that normal.
10, 9, 8.
That Florida humidity coming off the side of the rocket
5,
there.
4, 3, 2,
You see the rainbirds fire
1,
up?
0. Ignition. Liftoff!
That audio, though. Jeez. I'm going to turn that down a little bit because that audio is rough. Whew. You know what I want to do? Look at this. It's going to go into the clouds. I think I want to bring up the NASA spaceflight audio of this launch. I think SpaceX is getting this audio from literally right at the launch pad because it's in sync with the launch. But after this, we're going to bring up the audio that Chris G got, and we'll listen to that audio again real quick.
40 seconds into flight, and Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, carrying our Starlink payload to its targeted drop-off orbit.
Through the clouds. So let's do this. I'm gonna bring up Chris G's feed. Let me replay Chris's audio of that because I like the audio of the launch. It's going to take me just a second to bring it up. Geez, what channel is that on again? Oh, yeah, that's right, NASA Spaceflight. Let me see if I can grab that replay. I guess it's not a replay. It's the live stream that's on right now. Oh, who's that guy? It's the live stream that's on right now. Dude, I don't need to listen to you. Hang on. And then we'll scroll it back and see if I can find where Chris caught the launch. There's still a rocket on the pad. Venting, 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 more venting, venting. Okay, there's a launch. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and roll this replay. This is a replay of Chris G's video and audio. So we get a delay here because he was a couple miles away, but let's listen to this. Who knows T-minus what? I don't know how many T-minuses there are here.
All right, here we go, guys.
We also have the double over.
Water's on, ignition of the Merlin engines, and liftoff of the 8th flight of Starlink.
What was that? The 8th flight of Starlink. Yeehaw!
There we go. Look at that. The second mission in 5 days for SpaceX as the next Starlink mission lifts off from Cape Canaveral.
This is the audio you want. Wow.
Falcon 9 flying straight and true, pitching downrange, heading out northeast from the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station.
That audio, though. So good.
Yeah, I think our launch audio is actually almost better than SpaceX's, just on a delay, honestly.
I'm just letting it go. Yo, it just looks like daytime. I mean, the rocket lighting up the side of the clouds. It's heavy cloud cover down there at the Cape, so we're showing both. We've got the official feed here and... Okay, that is pretty cool. I mean, I don't know. The audio was okay, right? That's pretty good audio, I think. To me, it literally sounds like it's ripping through the atmosphere. It sounds like the atmosphere is tearing is how I like to describe it. But those are just a couple replays there. Again, that was a successful launch. SpaceX atop a Falcon 9 booster. They put 60 more Starlink satellites into orbit, and they successfully landed that booster on the drone ship. Just read the instructions out in the Atlantic. That means as long as the booster stays alive on the drone ship out there, we don't run into big winds or something that causes it to fall off the drone ship. Maybe we'll get a booster return live stream from Port Canaveral once again. I heard earlier that they have already taken down the booster that was from DM2, and they're clearing out those docks there so that they have room for this booster. Takes a couple days to bring it back in from the Atlantic, because remember, 600-something kilometers downrange, right? Quite a ways downrange, But if Chris is available and it doesn't conflict with anything else that's going on, I have a feeling he may go down to Port Canaveral with the live stream gear and get us a live stream of that. I am going to chop in over here just really quickly, and let me make sure I didn't miss anything. But that is the big event. Talked about the tension rods, talked about this, talked about that. All looks good. Audio's good. All right. Let me see if I missed anything else over here from the panel. Okay, yeah, I did miss a lot. Just let me get caught up with this really quickly. VLEX26 had a question. Are the RCS thrusters the first stage uses Draco thrusters? Uses Draco thrusters same as on Crew Dragon, or are they different? So the RCS thrusters are not Draco thrusters on the booster. Those are actually cold gas thrusters, if I'm not mistaken. Right, Michael? Those are not Draco thrusters. Those are cold gas thrusters.
Yeah, they're using nitrogen.
Yeah, so those are just compressed gas, basically, for the first stage. So those are not Draco thrusters. Appreciate you there, though. Claire says, hey, guys, keep up the great work. By the way, great coverage on Demo 2 launch. Thank you, Claire. Thank you for saying that. We appreciate the kind words. Alex had another question here, and these are super chats I'm running through. Why do we see the RCS puffs? The energy of the gas. That's a good question. I don't know that I know the answer to that one. Why would we be able to see the RCS puffs if there is no light to illuminate them? They're cold gas, so there's no combustion. Is there some sort of energy that makes them light up? Michael, do you have any guess on that?
Nope, I have no idea.
Gotcha. And I'm queuing up the landing. I saw some people wanting us to replay the landing, so I'll queue up the landing. That may be something that we need to get some other people on. I do not know off the top of my head why we would see cold gas thrusters. I've seen cold gas thrusters when the rocket was still being illuminated. So when you get the just before dawn or just after sunset, it's dark where you are, but the rocket is still in light. Out at Vandenberg, I have some video of cold gas thrusters that I took, and that was because the sun was still shining on the puffs of cold gas. But here, I don't believe that there was any sun still shining on them. It was really dark. Maybe it was light from the second stage. So we're guessing a little bit here. Maybe the engine of the second stage was creating enough light as it moved away that you could see some of those puffs. I wonder if it was like your breath when you can see when it's cold outside. I don't think it would be that, because you see that breath condensing because of the coldness of the atmosphere, but it's still, there's light from the environment shining on the breath that's condensing, the vapor in your breath condensing. So I don't know that. Is the camera IR? There wasn't any light on it. The rocket was totally dark. I mean, I'm just reading through some chat comments here. It was just after sunset, so we don't think it was sunlight. I don't believe that's an IR camera, and I don't even know that would show up on an IR camera, because again, they're cold gas thrusters. This may be one of those things where we may have to ask an expert on it and see if we can figure out exactly why you would see that if there was no light shining on them. It may be something. Moonlight, maybe? Maybe it was moonlight? I don't know. It's one of the things where I don't want to say an official answer because I don't know the official answer, so I would want to do some research on that and see if I can figure out what's going on with that. I know there's a lot of guesses, but maybe it's moonlight, glowing grid fins, all these different things. I don't know. A light on the camera? I don't know that there's a light on that camera, but anyways, let's do this really quickly. Let's replay the landing. Let's just transition over this way, and this is a replay of the landing.
Around T+8 minutes.
We'll get some SpaceX audio here too. So watch, you can actually see the drone ship light up. This seems to be a floodlight.
Stage 1 landing burn has started.
And that's the landing bird. You can see the clouds even light up. Look at the clouds lighting up in the background right there. It seemed like such a long landing burn, but I guess it just really isn't. It's just normally you see the rocket coming
Landing
down.
legs have deployed.
Nice.
Stage 2 FTSS saved.
And then a lot of that, and a lot of blast on the camera, and the signal held
and
for
wow,
us.
as you saw coming
And
down,
JRTI, we
that
have a
first
stage 1
stage
landed.
Falcon 9.
Landing operators moving to procedure 11.100 on recovery 1 and ECF 9.
Straight to business, straight to business. Move on to the next step in the process. But that is a floodlight pointing from the camera over at the booster on the drone ship. And you can actually see some venting coming out the bottom, but not exactly a dead center landing there, but pretty darned close to the center. So again, let me run through a couple more things here. I'll pause that so we have it. There was a super chat that came through from Enables. This was saying, I think it was because they were landing at sea. You were probably talking about reuse of the capsules. NASA not wanting the reuse of the capsules. You said saltwater is chemically active, which is why they didn't want it initially. Maybe the more they do it, the more comfortable NASA gets with that data or something like that, right? So thank you for that. Jala J. Does anybody else understand my shirt? I don't know if anybody else understands my shirt. I used to work for a company that made shower curtains, and they gave me this mechanic shirt when I was installing shower curtains. So it was Aperture Laboratories was the name of the place. I don't know if anybody else gets it, but this is me reading chat up here when I lean back like that. Jala, thank you for that. Something from, who was this? This was rough. And they said there's a new test stand already in place at Boca Chica. Somebody looking at pictures of Boca Chica over there. And then finally, Sarah Reha, new membership over there. Thank you, Sarah, as well. We appreciate it. On all those super chats and memberships. Over on my side as well, I appreciate y'all, the people over on Twitch. I never forget about you. A bunch of resubs and stuff like that. Sam the 49er, thank you for making spaceflight fun and interesting. Appreciate that. Avenger, thank you for supporting my channel over on Twitch, where I do a bunch of Kerbal Space Academy stuff. I do appreciate the support on all sides so that we can do this out here for you. I have been having a blast. Get it? Because rockets and SN4 and stuff. I've been having a blast working with NASA Spaceflight here, bringing you live feeds of all sorts of cool space. Yeah, whatever. You can facepalm. It's fine. I'm a dad. Officially, I am actually a dad in real life, so I can say that. But I have been having a fantastic time working with NASA Spaceflight, helping bring some of these live spaceflight coverage to you from all the different events that we're doing. For this evening, though, Chris G is packed up. He is moving away. I'm just going to do one last check, make sure I didn't forget anything. We did replay the landing, so we got that. So I believe that's going to be the end of our live stream here this evening. Just a little quick coverage. Again, never say never. It was a 60% chance of go, but it went. We had that feed from Chris. It was a clean launch pad, no rocket left. That means that we got a, well, I mean, 99.9999% of the time, it means that we got a launch. I don't not want to see a rocket and also not have a launch. But that will conclude our coverage here from the NASA Spaceflight Studios, which is actually my studio as well, which is actually a spare bedroom at my house. Whatever. We appreciate you as always. Hey, really quickly, people involved with the broadcast this evening, you can always follow us at NASA Spaceflight. That is the official, actual account on Twitter. And I'm going to try to type these in as fast as I can here. So if you want space news, you want to know when we go live, you want to know when things are going on, or you just want snide remarks about what's going on, you can follow Chris B over at NASA Spaceflight on Twitter. And I'll put those links into chat for you here. There's one. There's another right there. Also, hosting remotely and running the camera tonight, we had Chris Gebhardt, Assistant Managing Editor for NASA Spaceflight. Let's get Chris G NSF. Here is a Twitter link to his Twitter. If you want to toss him a follow, you don't want to, if you like following space news, a good thing to do is toss some follows on Twitter over there. Also, running our graphics for us here in the background, we had Michael Baylor. He is Next Spaceflight over here doing some writing, taking some photography, has an app that tells you, will notify you on your phone when launches are going to occur. There's Next Spaceflight as well. And yeah, look, it's also appearing up here at the same time. So I'm putting it so you can click it in chat, and then Michael Baylor is actually the one who makes these things appear. Appreciate you, Michael. Thank you. And then also, I am K Space. Can I spell that? Academy. I am over on Twitch. That's what I've been doing for a very long time. I've been a broadcaster. That's me. People on my Twitch channel are like, really? We've watched you do this for 6,000 hours. We don't need you to link your Twitter again. But over on YouTube, that's where you can find me, K-Space Academy. And I promise you, over on the Twitch side, I will start doing some ultra-hardcore career Kerbal streams and some Kerbal help desks. We've been sort of normalizing after the DM2 rush. I am still playing Kerbal. It is not going anywhere, and we will do some live Kerbal help desks back over on my Twitch channel whenever, when we get sort of normalized on the other side of this. Give me a day to recover. Give me a day to get the Redbird camera set up. Wait, what? A Redbird camera? That's right. I'm glad you asked. You didn't ask. A family of Redbirds has moved into a tree in the yard, and I'm working on putting some live stream cameras on the Redbirds. Anyways, That's enough talking for me tonight. Again, thank y'all all for joining us, all the support, whichever way you do it, whether you're doing tips or super chats or whatever, stickers, or you're following the channel, you're liking or you're subscribing or you're ringing bells, or you've been subbed to my Twitch channel for 6 years, whatever it is, we appreciate you. Hey, retweeting tweets, liking things on Twitter, whatever way that you participate, even if you just show up and listen to the broadcast, you chat, you ask questions, all of that is what makes us the NASA spaceflight community over here. So, as always, we appreciate you, and we wouldn't be here doing this without you out there watching us. But for now, I'm going to be quiet, and we will shut down our coverage for tonight's successful deployment of another 60 Starlink satellites with SpaceX. Later, nerds. I say that. Somebody actually called me out on that. They're like, oh, why'd you call me a nerd? Oh, that's so rude. That's not rude. That's what I always say. I own it. Yeah, I'm a nerd. Yeah, I like watching these rockets. I got to toss that in real quick. I hope everybody in the community is proud to be a spaceflight nerd. I am not using that in a derogatory manner ever, because I am very proud to call myself that. I hope y'all are proud as well. But like I said, later, nerds. Thanks again for watching.
Chamber pressure looks good. Following up. Roger, roll with Planet. Flight downside of speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.